So we are ready to get started in lesson 2. Let me go ahead and pull this up here, which is configure Webex hybrid directory service. So let me just get where I need to be. All right. So I'm starting with hybrid directory service because I'm trying to build these lessons in such a way that it creates an order of operation for you. So if you're standing up a new Webex solution, this is the order in which you'd want to do things. Obviously, when you first set up Webex, setting up a directory connector is not the first thing you want to do. When we're talking about kind of big picture items, directory connector is definitely something you want to tackle early on. And within this lesson, we're going to talk about other things you need to do even prior to that, like verifying or even claiming a domain. So we will talk about those things as well. Also, let me point out that I would like to do some demos, but I'm not sure if we have the time for it. I was hoping to be through lesson 2 already. We got a little tied up this morning with making recording work and things like that, trying to make sure I get the student guide into your hands. So it took a little bit of time to do all those things. So we'll see if we have time at the end of the day. I may come back and then show you how to do some of this different stuff. But let's go ahead and get started. This lesson is broken down into the following objectives. We're going to talk about deployment models, deployment requirements, Active Directory configuration and synchronization, and Webex user service assignment. So let's begin with deployment models. The hybrid directory service connects Microsoft Active Directory and Azure Active Directory to the Cisco Webex Teams and enables users to be able to see all company contacts in the Cisco Webex Teams app so that they can click in order to meet, message, or call one another. It also provides user synchronization between Microsoft Active Directory and Cisco Webex user management. Hybrid directory service simplifies the administrative experience by automatically synchronizing Microsoft Active Directory users with Cisco Webex, meaning creating, updating, and deleting users, so that users are always current in the Cisco Webex control hub. So the deployment requirements are as follows. Directory Connector provides all of the features of the Cisco Webex Hybrid Directory Service. It is client software, which is installed on a local Microsoft Windows server and synchronizes identities between the on-premise Microsoft Active Directory and Cisco Webex user management systems. Microsoft Active Directory acts as the system of record. So Directory Connector communicates with Active Directory, then communicates with Cisco Webex through highly secure APIs in order to create, update, or delete users. You can run synchronizations, view and monitor synchronization status, and configure hybrid directory service using the Directory Connector user interface. Customers can download Cisco Webex Hybrid Directory Service from the Cisco Webex Control Hub free of charge. The table you see on this slide identifies the Windows and Active Directory requirements in order to support the Directory Connector integration. In addition to the requirements that are listed here, the computer or server where the Directory Connector is installed must also meet certain hardware requirements. So it needs to be running on 8 gigs of RAM or more, have 50 gigabyte of storage space to be able to download the connector and install it, and there must be no minimum for the CPU. To access the Cisco Directory Connector software from Cisco Webex Control Hub, you require a Cisco Webex organization with a trial or paid subscription. Optionally, if you want new Webex Teams user accounts to be active before they sign in for the first time, Cisco does recommend that you first add and verify and optionally claim your domains that contain the user email addresses that you want to synchronize in the cloud. Cisco also recommends that you do a single sign-on integration of your identity provider with your Webex organization. And we will talk about single sign-on in lesson 9 tomorrow, at the end of the day tomorrow. And then also Cisco recommends that you suppress automatic email invites so that new users won't receive the automatic email invitation, and then you can do your own email campaign, right? And this feature does require the SSO integration be enabled before you can suppress automatic email invitations. You can add, claim, and verify your domain in Cisco Webex Control Hub to use the features that require proof of domain ownership, ensure the security and integrity of your organization, and to help with your user management. To verify domains, Cisco, or I guess the Webex Control Hub, will provide a token which you need to take and go into your DNS server and create a DNS TXT record or text record using that key. To confirm that you own the domain, the Webex Control Hub will then check for this token on the DNS server. You can also claim domains so that new Cisco Webex Teams user accounts are added to your organization automatically instead of just the free consumer organization. In other words, someone can't sign up for Webex using your company domain if you claim the domain, because they'll get added automatically into Webex Control Hub, and then you can prohibit them from there. So you need to claim a domain if you want new users with that domain to automatically be created within your organization, and then you must convert existing users into your organization before you can claim a domain. So if you have users who are using your company domain for Webex Teams and they are not yet added to your organization, they have to be converted over first. Cisco does recommend configuring auto license templates before claiming a domain, because new users are added automatically into Webex, and therefore those license assignments will automatically be applied to them when they're added. So you want those templates set up first. We'll talk about how to do all that later. I kind of feel like I need to show you this part, so let me get out of this for a second. And the slide you're seeing, the browser window that I'm showing you right now is dcloud. Cisco has a kind of lab environment of sorts that you can have access to if you have a CCO ID to log into Cisco's website. If you don't have one, you can sign up for one for free. So there's no reason you can't use this. Once you have your CCO ID, you just go to dcloud.cisco.com, and it'll take you to the login screen. Then you can log in with your CCO username and password, which I have mine saved in on my computer, so it's easy to get access. And that takes you into dcloud. Now you can go into the catalog and you can search for specific labs here. You can check boxes if there's a specific solution you're looking for, or you can just type in keywords like CUCM, for example, and then it'll show you all the labs that are relevant to that. I guess that wasn't a good things to search for. So like IM for instant messaging, and then you'll see all the different labs available here, and you can schedule these labs up. I've created a lab already. If I go back to my hub under sessions, you see this Cisco WebEx enablement lab. This is all things WebEx. Great lab to go into and play around in a test bed that's not going to mess up any production environment. Now, once you have a lab scheduled, it'll say view, so you can get access to it. And you can click on Info. And if you come down a little bit in the info section, you have some AnyConnect credentials right here. You can point AnyConnect to this URL and then log in with this username and password. And then you have VPN access into the pod, and you can access all of the different servers. If you don't want to use AnyConnect, you can just click on View. And you will see a topology here of all the different devices that are included in this specific lab. Again, each lab's a little different, so the servers available will be different as well. And then instead of doing an AnyConnect VPN, I can use the web portal to access the pod by coming over here to one of these workstations, click that blue drop-down arrow, and I get this flyout window here, and I just click on Remote Desktop. It opens up a new browser into a remote desktop session, and now I can use this remote computer to access anything I want in the lab pod, right? This is everything I have available. So I'm going to open up a browser, and I'll show you here. All you have to do to get to the Webex Control Hub is type in admin.webex.com. I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Admin. Oh, I put amen. Admin. Why is my D not working on my computer? This happened earlier. I was sending a message to someone and the D key wasn't working for me. Now I'm having internet connectivity issues here. There we go. Admin.webex.com should take you to this screen, and then you can log in with your user. Also, by the way, under details, go down a little further, you'll see a domain. This domain is assigned to each specific pod you schedule has a unique domain assigned to it. So you'll want to look and see what that domain is. I've already wrote this down so it's easy for me to remember. But you'll use that domain to sign into your WebEx related devices. So for example, C Holland is my administrator, so I'm going to sign in as C Holland at whatever that domain is, right? cb197.dctac01.com. And it'll prompt me for my password. Passwords are the same throughout all of dCloud, lowercase d, uppercase C, LOUD, 123, bang, or exclamation mark. And that will take me into the Webex Control Hub, where I can configure my other settings. Now, what we're talking about here, what I wanted to show you, I had to give you a quick introduction to dCloud in case you haven't heard of it before. Surprisingly, a lot of people have not. But I wanted to show you this because I want to come in and show you how to verify a domain. And so for that, I'm going to come down here in my menus you see on the left column. I'm going to come down to Settings. And then I want to scroll down to the section right here, section heading called Domain. Here it is, Domains. And the first thing I need to do is add a domain, right? So I click Add a Domain, whatever my domain is. In this case, it's cb197.dctac01.com. It pre-populated it here because that was set up when this account was first set up for me. And then I can click Add. That's where I get that token. You'll see here in just a second, it added the domain. And what I can do is right here, edit subdomain, view update history tasks. That is not it. Hold on. Sorry. Let's try this again. I just lost my domain here. Used to be a link that said verify token, and now there it is. Lost my domains. Oh, here we go. So it says under domains, it says pending, and then I just click on these three dots you see out here to the right, and I can retrieve that verification token. This token that you see right here, this is the token that I want to set up in a TXT file in my DNS server. right? So I'm going to copy that information. I'm going to go over to my DNS server. I'm going to create a TXT file and put that token in there. And then once I've built that in DNS, which it's already done for you in the dcloud environment, then what I can do is click the 3 buttons again and come down and select verify domain. So you got to add the domain. You got to retrieve the verification token and build your TXT file. And then you got to come back and verify the domain. So I'm going to click verify domain and then click verify. And as long as Webex can go out to DNS and it can see that token in that TXT file in your DNS server, then it will show you right here verified. If not, you'll get some other error warning and then you got to reconcile that, right? But now it does show verified. And I'll show you back here under the 3 dots. Now I can come down and claim the verified domain if I wanted to as well. I'm not going to claim the domain here, but you can also claim the domain. It's not really required to claim a domain. It's just extra security for your protection if you do claim a verified domain. But you must verify it first before you claim it. Claim just means no one else can use that domain. If anybody tries to, they get added to your Webex automatically, and then you can block them. That's all that is, okay? But verify is very important. You definitely need to verify your domains. Okay, I showed you that. Let's go back to the PowerPoint here. All right. So for a multiple domain environment, either a single forest or multiple forests, you must install one Cisco directory connector for each Active Directory domain. If you want to synchronize a new domain while maintaining the synchronized user data of an already existing domain, you need to ensure that you have separate supported Windows servers to install the directory connector for the second domain synchronization. For excuse me, for sign in to the connector, whether you're doing a single domain or multiple domain, Cisco does not require an administrative account in Active Directory. They do require a local user account that's the same user as a full admin account in Cisco Webex Control Hub. So when Webex is first set up, that's typically the user you already have in there. The local user must have privileges on the Windows machine where the directory connector is installed in order to connect the domain controller and read Active Directory user objects. The machine login account should be a computer administrator with privileges to install software on that local machine. And this information also applies to any virtual machine login. While signing into the connector, the sign-in account must be the same as the full admin account for the control hub. By default, the connector uses the local system account to access Active Directory. However, you can use Windows services to configure another account to access Active Directory. So make sure that Windows Safe Dynamic Link Library, or DLL, search mode is enabled. And if you use ADLDS for multiple domains on a single forest, Cisco recommends that you install the Cisco Directory Connector and Active Directory Domain Service, Active Directory Lightweight Directory Service, that's ADDS or ADLDS, on separate machines, right? So make sure that's done also. All right, so what does all that mean? If I go to users in my Webex Control Hub, you'll see I have a single user here. He is not synchronized from Active Directory. This is just the user we set up originally with this Webex installation. And if I select this user and I come down to administrator roles, you can see that this user has full administrative privileges. So all we're saying is when this user sets up the directory connector, it needs to be on a machine where this user who has full administrative privileges in the Webex Control Hub also has administrative access to that computer so they can download an application to it, and they'll have the authority to be able to log in using this administrator account. Those are the things you're looking for, okay? That this user does not have to have full administrative privileges to Active Directory, though. Someone, hold on a second, I'm going to read a couple of these comments here. Someone's having audio issues. Hopefully everybody else can hear me okay. Someone said not all the labs work correctly in dcloud. That is true. You're absolutely right. I write labs not for dcloud, but I write labs using dcloud for Cisco partners, and I make sure all of my labs work. If they don't work, I don't use them. So, but you're right. If you just go to dcloud and download a lab, sometimes they don't work. So you do have to watch out for that. Yes, labs are free to use on dcloud. There is no cost to them. Someone said the password to the system does not work or expired and does not let you go beyond that because, yeah, sometimes that, well, what happens is they use Active Directory for all the user synchronizations in dcloud. And sometimes when these systems load up, because they're all virtual machines, they don't load correctly, and there are scripts that run in the background. The scripts don't always run. And so what happens is the user's trying to log in and authenticate its credentials, but AD's not syncing up or it's not working right, and so the passwords don't seem to work. With situations like that, there is a help option in dcloud where you can reach out to support and someone can help you reset servers and that sort of thing. Also, you have access to do that yourself in dcloud. If you go to servers right here, I can go into any one of these servers and I can reboot it or reset it, which reset it sets it back to the settings it's supposed to be at when the VM first sets up. So you can do this yourself, or you can contact support and they can help you. I don't usually reach out to support, so I'm trying to remember how to do that. There's a link on here somewhere. Oh, it's up here up top, I think. Or it used to be. Edit and info endpoints. There used to be a link right at the top that resources here. Under resources, more help right here. You can go in there and then reach out to someone on the dcloud team, and they can help you support this stuff. So there are ways to support that. Someone said your screen share seems to be minimized, tough to see compared to the earlier session. I'm not sure what you're referring to. If anybody else is having that issue, put it in the chat window so that I can try to address that. Sherry also said there's no audio on her end. Hopefully that's fixed itself. Is there anybody that can hear me? I guess I should ask that. If you can't hear me, you're not going to say anything. Audio's good. Okay. All right. Some people can hear me. All right. So if you're having audio issues, I mean, you probably won't hear me say this, but if you are having audio issues, it's probably on your end. Disconnect your audio, reconnect it, and that should resolve those issues. All right. Good. Lots of people are hearing audio fine, so that's great. Okay. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that administrator account just needs full administrator access, and then they can do what they need to do to be able to download and install the directory connector. Yeah, that's Gentry, that's right. They probably lost their audio during lunch and never reconnected, so that's a possibility. All right. Oops, wrong button. Here we go. All right, so let's move on. Active Directory configuration and synchronization. Here are the steps to install and set up the directory synchronization. So the first 3 steps that you see listed here, downloading and installing the directory connector, opening and signing into the directory connector, and object selection are all mandatory steps. You have to do those or it's not going to work, right? But the next step, adding avatars, that's an optional step. You don't have to set up avatars. You can do directory synchronization without avatars. Avatars is just that little picture of everybody you see next to their name in Webex. Then it's always a good idea to perform a dry run to ensure everything's set up correctly before enabling and running synchronization. You don't have to do a dry run. It's not a mandatory step, but it's really good idea. So I would consider it not optional in most scenarios, right? Once the synchronization process is complete, or what you will want to verify that everything was performed the way it was supposed to. So the next few slides after that will detail the specifics of each of these steps used to perform each of the tasks that are outlined here. So let's begin with installing the directory connector. Cisco Webex Control Hub initially shows directory synchronization as disabled. So to turn on directory synchronization for your organization, you must install and configure the Cisco directory connector and then successfully perform a full synchronization. That will enable it automatically. All right. Sherry said something. I don't know if it'd be helpful, but we can't see the chat from the participants and the questions they are asking. Only you can. I can't chat with everyone. Just so you guys know, in the chat window, there's a setting you can set it to send it to just me or to all of the panelists, or you can send it to all participants. If you want other people to see your chat messages, you may want to change it to all participants. In fact, let me just get out of this for a second and make sure you guys have that privilege set up. I'm going to have to stop sharing here. Hold on. So I can get to my other menus. Participants, privileges, communication. I didn't have a box checked for all attendees. You guys should be able to change who you're chatting with to all attendees so everybody can see it. Sherry did bring that to my attention, so thank you for that, Sherry. Yeah. Oh. Justin, you're seeing it in full screen now, and you weren't before. That's interesting. Let me go back and share my desktop again. Hopefully it's still in full screen for you when I share it. Pull my participant and chat windows back over to my other screen. So you guys can send your messages to everybody, but just so you know, I mentioned this earlier and I'll mention it again. I am going to make all of the chat messages available to everybody. So even if you sent chat messages to me privately, I'm going to send out a document and everybody should be able to see that now. But I think it is important you guys see the questions each other are asking. So when you send questions to me in the chat window, just make sure that in the send to drop-down menu that you select all participants or all attendees. Either all participants or all attendees, and that way everybody can see your question. It's better if you put all participants because that includes panelists and attendees. So if you do just all attendees, I may not see your question. So make sure you do all participants. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. So we're talking about installing the directory connector. And For a new installation of the Cisco Directory Connector, you always want to go to the Webex Control Hub to get the latest version of the software so that you're using the latest features and bug fixes. After you install the software, upgrades are reported through the software and automatically install whenever available. That way it stays current. But when you're first installing it, always make sure you have a fresh install. You must install one connector for each Active Directory domain, as I mentioned before. A single Cisco Directory Connector instance can only serve a single domain. So the diagram on this slide will help you understand the flow for multiple domain synchronization. The following steps outline how to download and install a single directory connector. So step one, from the admin.webex.com web interface, you want to go to the Users menu, click on the Manage Users button in the top right corner, and then click Enable Directory Synchronization. That's the link you see on this slide in the first image. That'll take you to this next screen you see here. So then you just want to click Next, and it takes you to the next screen or slide, picture, I guess, graphic you see right here. Then you want to click the Download and Install link to save the latest version of the Cisco Directory Connector zip file to your Windows Server, PC, VM, wherever you're installing it, right? So make sure wherever you want it installed, that's where you're downloading it from. You want to go into that computer where you're going to install it, log into admin.cisco.com, and then download it. Again, you must have full administrative access to the Webex Control Hub organization in order for this software to work. Then on VMware or the Windows Server, wherever you are, you want to unzip and run the .msi file that's in the setup folder in order to launch the Cisco Directory Connector setup wizard. Then you click Next, check the box to accept the license agreement. This is just your normal installation stuff. Click Next. You'll see the account type screen. You want to choose the type of service account that you want to use. And then perform the installation with your admin account. And you can do local system, which is the default option. You choose this option if you have a proxy configured through your Internet Explorer. Or you can do domain account, and you use this option if your computer is part of a domain, right? Then you want to click Install. After the network test runs, you want to enter your proxy basic credentials. If you're prompted to do so, click OK, and then click Finish, and that installs it, right? So it's just your normal basic installation. A lot of words. I don't want it to be confusing. The main part of this right here is when you go to the users link in the Webex Control Hub, you come up to Manage Users right here, and you select that. And then under Active Directory, and notice it says Disabled. You want to turn on Directory Synchronization. You get this welcome thing right here. You just click Next, and then click Download and Install. Right? Once you download the file, you don't need to click Next or anything else. You're done with this, right? Go ahead and close it. If you go back into Manage User, it still shows disabled. That will change to enabled once you set up the directory connector. Then you just go to wherever your downloaded files are, you install the directory connector, and now you're ready to use it, right? That's it. You just follow the installation steps. Nothing real special there. So I used a lot of big fancy words just to say download and install it, right? Real easy to do. Then what do you do? Once the directory connector has been installed, you want to open the application and sign in with that Cisco WebEx administrator login credentials of the administrator I just showed you, in this case, Charles Holland, and then perform the initial setup. So the initial setup, you want to open the directory connector and add the idbroker.webex.com to your list of trusted sites if it prompts you to do so. In most cases, it probably won't. Okay, someone said, is there any way to run scripts in Webex environment? For example, enabling certain licenses for bulk users. Unfortunately, there's no way for you to run those scripts. That's all done on the back end. And like I use Webex all the time. They even gave me the ability to create my own custom, I say Webex, I meant dcloud. I use dcloud all the time. I can create my own custom. Oh, you said Webex though. I'm sorry, I misread your question. Let me read that again. Is there any way to run scripts in Webex environment for bulk users? Well, sort of. You can do CSV files for bulk users. And there is a back end to Webex. So technically, there's an API back end. You can, if you know how to create scripts and all that, you can create and run those scripts as well. Absolutely. What Cisco recommends for bulk users is to use the CSV files. But again, it's not the only way to do it because there is a API backend. If you know REST APIs, sure, you could write a script and run that. Absolutely. In fact, that's what they do in dcloud for a lot of these labs when they first boot up is they create these API scripts that when a lab pod boots up, those scripts run and it does certain things for you. It creates these accounts, it adds Charles Hall into it, it installs the directory connector on the Charles PC for you automatically. It does all of these things for you in the backend. So if they can do it for dcloud, you can definitely do it for in a production environment. Absolutely. So good question. Sorry I misread that at first. So next thing you want to do is confirm your organization and domain. So if you choose ADDS, check LDAP over SSL to use the secure LDAP or LDAP-S as the connection protocol. Choose a domain that you want to synchronize from and then click confirm. After Cisco Directory Connector confirm organization screen appears, click confirm again. And then if you have already bound ADLDS, the confirm organization screen appears for that, and then you can just click confirm there as well to move on to the next screen. Then you want to choose one depending on the number of Active Directory domains you want to bind to the directory connector. If you have a single domain that is ADLDS, bind to the existing ADLDS source and then click confirm. If you have a single domain that is ADDS, either bind to the existing domain or to a new domain. And if you choose bind to a new domain, then you just click next, and because the existing source type is ADDS, you cannot select ADLDS for the new binding. So there's no way to go back on that. If you have more than one domain, choose an existing domain from the list or bind to a new domain and then click next. And then again, because you have more than one domain, the existing source type must be ADDS, and you can't go back to ADLDS. To get the latest features, bug fixes, and security updates, make sure you're always downloading the latest software version. And there is a way you can go in and change the menus so that it automatically searches for updates and keeps your directory connector current. So to do that, you can go to Configuration General, click the automatic upgrade to new Cisco Directory Connector version, click Apply, and then save your changes. And then new versions of the connector are automatically installed as soon as they're available. You do not have to be logged in for that to occur. Now, you got to do your object selection. So by default, Cisco Directory Connector synchronizes all users that are not computers and all groups that are not critical system objects for a domain. For more control over what objects get synchronized, you can select specific users to synchronize and specify LDAP filters by using the object selection page in the Cisco Directory Connector. So from Cisco Directory Connector, you want to go to Configuration and then click Object Selection. In the Object Type section, you can check Users or Groups. and consider limiting the number of searchable containers for your users, so you can control, who's actually being imported. If you want to synchronize just users in a certain group, such as you may want to enter an LDAP filter in the user LDAP filter field. If you want to sync users that are in the example manager group, for example, use a filter. There's actually in your student guide an example of what you'd want to put in there. So it's like open parentheses, ampersand, open parentheses, SAM account name equals star, close parentheses, right? And then you can do an open parentheses, member of equals CN for container, equals example manager, because that's the name of the group, comma OU for organizational unit, equals example, OU equals security group, DC equals company, right? And so you just kind of, it's just LDAP thing, LDAP language. If you're used to working with it, it's familiar. If not, it's foreign. But if you don't work with it, you don't really need to know it, so don't worry about it. Then what you want to do is check your identify room to separate room data from user data. Use a setting if you want to synchronize on-premise room information from Active Directory into the Webex cloud. After you synchronize the room information, the on-premise room devices with configured map SIP addresses show up as searchable entries on cloud registered room devices. So you can synchronize not just users, but devices as well. Then you want to check your groups if you want to synchronize your Active Directory user group to the cloud. Do not add a user sync LDAP filter to the groups field. You should only use the groups field to sync the group data itself to the cloud. Groups for hybrid data security deployments in Cisco Directory Connector, you must check groups if you're using the hybrid data security to configure a trial group for pilot users. This Cisco Directory Connector setting does not affect other synchronized users in the cloud. Then you want to configure the LDAP filters. You can add extended filters by providing a valid LDAP filter. Then you want to specify the on-premise based DNs to synchronize by clicking select to see the tree structure of your Active Directory, which you see in the left side of the screen right here. From here, you can select or deselect which containers to search within, and then check that the objects you want to add for this configuration, and then click select. You can select individual or parent containers to use for synchronization. Select a parent container to enable all child containers. If you select a child container, the parent container shows a gray check mark that indicates a child has been checked. You can select or click select to accept the Active Directory container that you checked. If your organization places all users and groups in the users container, then you do not have to search any other containers. If your organization is divided out into organizational units or OUs, make sure that you select OUs. Then after you've made all your selections, you want to click apply to save the changes. 3 options will appear when you click apply, and you can choose any one of the 3. You can apply config changes, you can do a dry run, or you can cancel, which will just default everything back, right? Then optionally you can do avatar. Again, the previous slide, that's kind of mandatory. This is optional. You can synchronize your users' avatars to the cloud so that each user's avatars appear when they sign into their application. You can synchronize avatars from an Active Directory attribute or a resource server. Use this procedure to synchronize raw avatar data from an Active Directory attribute. So step 1, from the Directory Connector, you want to go to Configuration and then click Avatar, and then check the Enable box. For Get Avatar From, choose AD Attribute, and then choose the avatar attribute that contains the raw avatar data that you want to synchronize to the cloud. Then you want to verify the avatar is accessed correctly. So enter a user's email address and click Get User's Avatar. And if the avatar appears to the right, then you know it's working the way it's supposed to. After you verify that the avatar appeared correctly, you can click Apply to save your changes. The images that are synchronized become the default avatar for users in the Cisco Webex Teams app. Users are not allowed to set their own avatar after this feature has been enabled from the Cisco Directory connector. The user avatars synchronize over to both Cisco Webex Teams and any matching accounts on the Webex site. So Webex meetings, anything like that, depending on what services you've provided to them. Once you've completed all the setup steps, the next thing you want to do is perform a dry run, right? So there's a couple different ways you can do a dry run. There's also different opportunities you can do it. I like to enable synchronization. It'll prompt you to do a dry run then, and then go ahead and do the dry run at that time. But again, there's different ways you can do it. Let's see. That's all I really. Oh, so when you do a dry run, I do want to say this. It'll provide a results page for you, and there's usually two options you'll see depending on whether you're using a single domain or multiple domains. So in single domain, you need to decide whether you want to keep the mismatched users. If you want to keep them, choose no retain objects. If you don't, choose yes delete objects. After you do these steps and manually run a full sync so that there's an exact match between the premise and cloud, Cisco Directory Connector will automatically enable scheduled auto sync tasks. If you have multiple domains for an organization with, say, domain A and domain B, first do a dry run on domain A. Then if you want to keep mismatched users, choose no retain objects. Again, if you want to delete, choose yes delete objects. And if you keep the users, run a full sync for domain A first, and then do a dry run on domain B. If there's still mismatched users, you can add those users in Active Directory and before you do the full sync for domain B. When there's an exact match between the premise and cloud, Cisco Directory Connector automatically enables scheduled auto sync tasks. So in the confirm dry run prompt, you want to click yes to redo the dry run synchronization and view the dashboard to see the results. Any accounts that were successfully synchronized in the dry run appear under the objects matched. If a user in the cloud doesn't have a corresponding user with the same email in Active Directory, the entry is listed under users deleted. To avoid this delete flag, you can add a user in Active Directory with the same email address. To view the details of the items that were synchronized, click the corresponding tab for specific items or objects matched, and then to save the summary information, click Save Results to File. Once you've done your dry run, now you want to enable and run synchronization. So assuming your results are as expected, you can go to the Actions menu. Under Synchronization Mode, select Enable Synchronization, and then click the Enable and Now to do a manual synchronization and put Cisco Directory Connector in manual mode at this point. After doing a synchronization on the last Active Directory domain in your multiple domain environment, you must enable automatic mode for Cisco Directory Connector. You can enable automatic mode only when the objects are completely matched between the Cisco Webex Cloud and all on-premise Active Directories. When you run a full synchronization, the connector service sends all filtered objects from your Active Directory to the cloud. The connector service then updates the identity store with your AD entries. If you created an auto-assigned license template, you can assign that to the newly synchronized users. If you have multiple domains, you must do this step on each of the Cisco Directory Connector instances you've installed for each Active Directory domain. Cisco Directory Connector synchronizes the user account state. In Active Directory, any users that are marked as disabled also appear as inactive in the cloud. After first-time sign-in, if the dry run is complete and looks correct for all domains, click Enable Now to allow automatic synchronization to occur. From Cisco Directory Connector, go to the dashboard, click Sync Now Full to start a full synchronization. Confirm the start of your synchronization. During the synchronization, the dashboard shows the synchronization process, and this may include the type of synchronization, the time it started, and what phase in which the synchronization is currently running. After the synchronization, the last synchronization and cloud statistics section are updated with the new information. User data is synchronized to the cloud. You do want to verify synchronization was complete, and there's two places you can verify this. The status for directory synchronization updates from will update the field from disabled to operational on the settings page in the Webex Control Hub. So that's one indicator you have that synchronization was successful. When all data is matched between on-premise and cloud, Cisco Directory Connector changes. The Cisco Directory Connector changes from manual mode to automatic synchronization mode. Unless you integrate single sign-on, verify domains, and optionally claim domains for email accounts that you synchronized and suppress automated emails, the Cisco Webex Teams user accounts remain in a not verified state in the Webex Control Hub until users sign into the Webex Teams for the first time to confirm their accounts. If you have multiple domains, do this step on any other Cisco Directory Connector that you've also installed, and after synchronization, the users on all domains you added should be listed in the Webex Control Hub. If you integrated single sign-on with the Cisco Webex and suppressed email notifications, the email invitations will not be sent out to the newly synchronized users. You cannot manually add users in Webex Control Hub after the Directory Connector is enabled. So once enabled, user management is performed from Cisco Directory Connector, and Active Directory is the single source of truth. If errors occur during the synchronization, the status indicator ball will turn red. You can click refresh if you want to update the status of the synchronization. For information about errors, select the Launch Event Viewer menu from the Actions toolbar in order to view the different error logs. Also, you can verify synchronization was successful from the Control Hub. Either click on the user's menu or refresh the user's page if you're already navigated there. Verify all the users have been imported that you expected to be imported. At the top of the page, a counter will identify how many users exist in the Webex database. If you included avatar information as well, then each user should have a picture to the left of their name. And once all the information has been verified successfully, then you can go back and close your directory connector and you've completed the process. All right, so let's take a look at this. I think I have time for this. I'm going to log back into the Webex Control Hub real quick. C Holland at cb197.dctac01.com. And we'll sign in. Oops. Fat fingers. All right, so just to verify, we only had one user, and there wasn't a lot of information about that user in the Webex Control Hub. So we go to Users menu, we see Charles Holland, but there's no avatar, no first name, no last name, and the display name and email address are the same. All right, so now what we want to do is install and run the directory connector, which is actually already installed on this computer. So I go down to the Windows screen and type in, Cisco. I can't type today. My D is not working for some reason, like half the time. Okay, Cisco Directory Connector. Again, we want to sign in with our administrator user information. So C Holland at cb197.dctech01.com. And password dcloud123bang. And we're going to choose ADDS. We could choose LDAP over SSL. I'm not worried about that for my demo here. I clicked on the Load Domains button and then select dcloud.cisco.com. Then we click Confirm. Give it just a second here. Would you like to automatically upgrade to the latest directory connector when it's available? Yes. So I get the prompt, makes it easy, right? Do I want to do a dry run at this time? I don't really. If I do a dry run right now, it's going to try to import all the users in Active Directory, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to say not now, and then I'm going to come up here to the Configuration tab, and under Object Selection, I want to specify what objects I want to import. So I don't want to import any groups. I just want to import users. And the users I want to import specifically, if I click Select, then here's that hierarchy of everything in my Active Directory. I'm going to select or unselect this parent folder, and watch what happens to all these child folders when I unselect it. They all get unselected as well, because I don't want all of these. I only want one of these. I want dcloud in this case, right? So I'm going to choose the select button after I've checked that, and now I have my path here set up, OU, which is my organizational unit, equals dcloud. Under the domain, DC, domain controller, dcloud, domain controller Cisco, domain controller com. So it's dcloud.cisco.com, basically, right? And then I could click apply settings, but I'm actually going to go over to avatar and do some avatars as well. So I'm going to choose the enable box, which gives me all of the settings here. And I have to put in my avatar URL pattern. Where are my avatars located? And so hopefully whoever's managing all of this for you will be able to answer that information for you. But if I look at my desktop here, I have a pattern.txt file, and this is where my avatars are located. So I'm going to copy that information, close that, and come back here and paste that information in the avatar URL pattern. Now I'll come down and click apply. And notice I can do a dry run at this point if I want to. And it'll tell me what information is going to be imported. I'm not going to do it yet. I'll just click apply changes just so those settings get committed. And then I'm going to come back to dashboard, and under actions, I'm going to choose synchronization mode, enable synchronization, right? Now, it's a good idea to do a dry run before you enable synchronization. I could have just said sync dry run right here too. And I believe under actions, I have a dry run option too, which is not going to let me select. But when this pop-up window comes up, would you like to perform a dry run now? Now I'm going to say yes. It's going to do a dry run check, meaning it's not actually doing the synchronization, but it's showing me what items would be synchronized if I did it, right? And I can see right here 7 objects will be added. I have 1 object matched because C. Holland already exists in there, but he also exists in Active Directory, right? And so I can come up here at the top, you see all these tabs. I can see admins deleted, users deleted, groups deleted, objects added, matched, and rooms deleted. So those are all the different settings I was talking about before, and I can click between them if I want, but this is my expected outcome, so this is all I need to worry about here. I'm going to click done, and then it's going to say, because I said enable synchronization, are you ready to enable synchronization now? Yep, let's enable synchronization. And notice the status changed from disabled to idle. The mode also changed from manual to automatic. So now I'm going to force a synchronization. I could wait whatever times are preset in here for when synchronization occurs. It will happen at that point in time. But I can also force it to go ahead and do a synchronization now. I'm going to go to Actions, Sync Now, and then just do a full synchronization. I have to confirm that that's what I want to do. And then under Phase right here, you're going to see some information. Here's the number of users that are uploaded and processed, and the number of avatars uploaded and processed. And so we just got to wait for this to complete. Shouldn't have any issues. Sometimes you may have synchronization issues, especially if you have a lot of users, and this could take a really long time if you have a lot of users. If that's the case, you may want to do incremental syncs, or you can just refresh it and just, if you do a full sync and you get an error message, just refresh it, run it again. Usually on the second run, everything works a lot smoother. So it's finished, and we can see now under last synchronization box that our status changed to no errors, and it did the full synchronization. I can see when it started and finished and all of that. So there's my verification from the directory connector. What's my verification from the Webex Control Hub? I want to refresh this page. Watch C. Holland's information change. He had no avatar, no first name, no last name, and the display name and email were the same. Now when I look at Charles Holland, all this information got populated using the Active Directory. And notice that not only is he active, but all the other users are surprisingly showing verified, not active, but verified, because I verified the domain, and their domain for their email matches the domain that I verified. So that's why it's showing up as verified. Right? So I just wanted to show you that real quick. It's a pretty easy process to run through, so I just wanted to display that for you. Let's go ahead and come back here and look at Webex user service assignments. There's two methods for doing service assignment. So after you complete full user synchronization from the directory connector into the Webex Control Hub, you can use Cisco Webex Control Hub to assign the same Cisco Webex service licenses to all of your users at once, or add additional licenses to new users if you've already configured an auto-assign license template. So when you assign a license to the Webex team user, that user receives an email confirming the assignment by default. The email is sent by a notification service in Cisco Webex Control Hub. And if you integrated single sign-on, though, you can suppress automatic email notifications, and in that case, they won't receive the email. To auto-assign user services to all of your users, the first thing you want to do in the users menu is click Manage Users, and then click Set Up Auto-Assign Template link in the license section, right? So up here, Active Directory, this is where we set up our downloaded directory connector. Right below that, licenses, click on the Set Up Auto-Assign Template. Takes you a page that looks like this. You want to check the box beside the services that should be assigned to all users. the following messaging and meeting options are available. Under messaging, this is Cisco's free Webex Teams messaging client that offers messaging and presence. And there are two options available under this service. Service assignment, Webex Teams, and Jabber Team messaging mode. Notice in this example, Jabber Team messaging mode is grayed out because that service has not been enabled and set up yet. When we talk about that one later, I believe tomorrow, or I can't remember which lesson that is, might be today, then you'll actually see that service change. It won't be grayed out anymore. Meetings includes all meeting capabilities through Webex solution. So the options available here may depend on what services a company is subscribed in order to have. There are three possibilities available. You have Webex Team meetings. These are meetings hosted by personal Webex Teams accounts. You have Webex Enterprise Edition. These are Webex Meeting Center hosted meetings. Participants may connect to these meetings directly to the cloud or through the Webex video mesh node if it's been configured. Then there's Webex collaboration meeting rooms, and this is the same as the Webex Enterprise Edition with the inclusion of the ability for Cisco Telepresence endpoints to be able to join the meeting. So when the Webex Enterprise Edition option is selected, this other option will automatically be selected as well. Calling, no options will appear for calling services in the setup auto assign template because there's additional settings that have to be configured on an individual user basis for this feature. However, calling can be set up for multiple users with a CSV file. Once all the required services have been selected, click on the Next button and a confirmation page will appear. Verify the information is correct and then click Save. And that's it. The template's been created. If single sign-on is not being used, then these template settings will not be applied to the user account until they log in and verify their account for the first time. So if I set up templates and then I look at a user, I'm not going to see those settings applied to the user. But if SSO was set up prior to the template being set up, then these settings will be applied to that user account immediately. If the company is planning to use SSO, then this template should be set up before setting up single sign-on. Once single sign-on is set up, the template will be applied to all users immediately, and all accounts will show as active, whether they verified their account or not. If there are already active users in the Webex Control Hub and you want to modify the auto-assigned services, then from the Webex Control Hub portal, you want to go to the Users menu, click Manage Users, choose the Modify All Synchronized Users option, and then click Next. If you suppressed email notifications, read the prompt that appears in the screen and then click Next again. And on sync status, click the refresh arrow to upload the list. Click Next, and then choose one of the following options. You can check the Cisco Webex service that you want to apply initially to all of the synchronized users, or if the license template has already been configured and activated, Cisco Webex services from the template are applied to the newly synchronized users. So you want to apply it to new users or current users, basically. You can also manually assign user services. Administrators may choose to modify specific user services on a case-by-case basis by going into the Users menu and selecting a specific user. And then in the configuration flyout window that appears on the right of the screen, next to the service section, they can click on Edit Link. The Services Enabled for Users window will appear, and this window has the same appearance as the Setup Auto Assign Template page. Then they select or change the services for that user, and then click on the Save button, and then the services have been changed then for that individual user. So let me show you that one real quick, and that finishes out this lesson. So 2 ways to do this. You can do auto-assign templates or manually assign services. So auto-assign template, you click on Manage Users. I selected Taylor Bard somehow. Don't remember doing that. Manage Users. And under licenses, see how it says set up auto assign template because it hasn't been set up before. So I click on that hyperlink and all the services available will show up on this page. Notice Jabber team messaging mode is grayed out because it hasn't been configured yet. But I'll give all users, and this is just in a template, I'll give them Webex Teams, Webex Team Meeting, and then watch what happens when I click Webex Enterprise Edition. Webex Collaboration Meeting Rooms also get selected automatically. I can go back and unselect that if I want. I don't know why I'd want to do that, so might as well just leave it all checked, right? Or you can kind of modify. Maybe you don't want everybody to have a Webex license, but everybody gets a Teams meeting license, right? So maybe I don't select this one. It's really entirely up to you. Notice calling doesn't have any options available. Again, you can't set up calling with the auto-assign template. So then I click Next. It gives me a confirmation screen. I click Save. And that creates that template for everybody. But these users have not signed in and activated their accounts yet. So watch what happens if I select Anita Perez and I go to Services and I click Edit. Nothing is selected here. Now, if I go back and verify Anita's account and then come back in here, everything I checked before, you will see selected here as well, right? But in this case, it's not. So what do I need to do? On an individual user basis, I can manually assign settings. So I can manually give her Webex Teams Meetings, Webex Enterprise Edition. And if I wanted to, now I can give her Webex Calling. I can give her enterprise calling or basic calling, right? I'm not going to enable that for her in this case, but it is an option on a manual basis or on a case-by-case basis, but not an option on a template basis. So I can just save those settings, and then they've been applied to Anita, right? So that's it. Now, if you did want to do a CSV file, you could come down to CSV file, add or modify users, export the user list, modify it, upload it back into the Webex Control Hub, and then it would apply that template to all of your different users. Okay. So that's it for chapter or lesson 2.